So Feinstein, who announced, of course, she was going to intend to retire at the end of her term, was absent from the Senate for months earlier this year due to the health issues that we've covered extensively. So her absence from the Senate prompted not only calls for her resignation, but also discussions of what should happen should that seat become vacant. Well, now Governor Newsom must decide whom to appoint to the U.S. Senate. So we're going to talk about all of that. What comes next with constitutional law expert Jessica Levinson. Jessica, we appreciate you giving us some time this evening. I know it's been a busy day for you, but I want to start with where we sit legally, because we've been talking about scenarios for months now. What is Governor Newsom going to do? Who is he going to appoint? What is this going to look like? But the law is pretty clear on what has to happen next, right?
So he has the ability to, yes, you're right. He has the ability to appoint someone, and then the law is fairly clear that there will be a special election. And based on the law and based on the calendar, I think that special election will actually fall at the same time as our primary and general elections. So for voters, this could look very similar and like deja vu all over again to what happened when we voted for Senator Alex Padilla, where we were voting for him to fill the rest of a term for Vice President Kamala Harris's term. And then we were also voting for him to serve his own term. And that's essentially what I believe the ballot will look like next time around.
All right, so just to give a little bit more context here, the reason we saw this law change, the legislature passed the law, Newsom signed it in 2021 because there was some discussion about the legality and a possible challenge to the 17th Amendment to the Constitution if you have these appointments to the U.S. Senate. We know how politics play out here in the state of California. We're a one-party rule state. So if the governor appoints someone, for instance, Alex Padilla, he's going to be there for life or as long as he wants to be. And even if he has a challenger, there's unlikely to be a challenger from the inside and no Republicans going to win. So there were some people taking a look at this going, could this potentially be challenged legally, right?
That's exactly right. That's a great explanation. And there was a question as to whether our previous state law was in tension with the U.S. Constitution, the 17th Amendment. And that's why we essentially made this change regarding the timing of when we would have special elections to fill these vacancies. And so what we have in California is a law that is pretty generous for Governor Newsom in terms of who he could pick, and then also put some temporal limits, some timing on how long that appointment can serve before there would be an election.
All right, so let's talk about the ripple effects here, because obviously, this isn't something that the governor is starting to look at right now. It's not like he got news of the senator's passing and he assembled his team and he said, okay, who are we going to appoint? There's been likely meetings going on for months now because we have been talking about this for months. But there are a lot of eyes on this state right now because we're on the verge of a government shutdown. The math in the Senate is split. And we also have another member of the Senate involved in a scandal right now. So I imagine this is something that leadership is going to want this to move quickly.
Leadership is going to want a name by the end of the weekend. And I'm being a little facetious, but not really. I think for the reasons that you absolutely correctly laid out, Democrats have no margin here. And the Senate is deadlocked really 50-50 only because we have Senator Kamala Harris, the vice president, who can serve as the president of the Senate. You alluded to Senator Menendez from New Jersey, who's facing calls to step down as a result of his federal indictment on corruption charges. So time is certainly of the essence for Democrats. Obviously, we're facing that government shutdown, and Democrats do not want to be one person down.
Is there any other scenario in terms of how this appointment, how the election, calling the legislature back? Is there any other caveats we should be keeping an eye on? Are you keeping an eye on?
I don't think so. I think the big question will be how much do the Senate Republicans want to use kind of sharp elbows or hardball tactics when it comes to the naming of that particular person to temporarily fill the seat, and kind of how much Senate Republicans will try and make it difficult for that person to have certain roles on committees, for instance, if they will try and block the appointment with respect to those questions like committee work. But I don't think there's any question as to whether or not Governor Newsom has the power for this appointment. I don't think there's a question that we're going to have a special election that looks a lot like the special election last time around. I don't think there's any question that Governor Newsom, for political reasons, probably did not want to be in this position. He has to decide whether or not he's going to make good on his two promises not to put his thumb on the scale and appoint somebody who's running and to appoint a Black woman. And we'll see in the coming days if he's able to do that.
Yeah, a lot of pressure, a lot of eyes, and everybody looking at their watches. All right, Jessica Levinson, we appreciate you joining us this evening and giving us some of your excellent expertise and analysis.
Thank you.